evening, and welcome to Wednesday Night Live, Spirit, Mind, and Body Connection. I am Dr. Sharron Stroud. I am the founder of Interfaith Spiritual Center Worldwide, where we believe it is a divine idea in the mind of God whose time has come, the time is now, and the place is where we are. We have no creed but love. Love one another as I have loved you. We have no doctrine but the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And tonight, as we enter into June, we acknowledge the archetypes. And I just want to acknowledge that you're here, Reverend Emma. Bless you, and I'm waving at you as well. And as we come together this evening, just to acknowledge what is an archetype, that archetypes are universal models. And they are in literature, they are in art, our daily life, as we go about our rounds, that the archetypes of the caregiver can come forth. And so we're really going to look at that tonight. I want to acknowledge Rhonda from Florida. Welcome, dear Rhonda. We welcome you and acknowledge your commitment to our virtual community. And our Prince, Fleet Easton, our beautiful music director, is here, and you can hear him every Sunday morning so magnificently with his beautiful, beautiful voice. We are so blessed to have you, Fleet. And I want to acknowledge that Julie is here and wave back, and Miriam is here as well. So I'm going to wave at you, Miriam, and just welcome you into our virtual community and family. And every Wednesday night live, we have a different topic, but the theme of the month is really about archetypes and how they shape our daily life. And the more conscious we become, the more mindful we become, that we can access these archetypes and we can bear witness to them as they are channeling through our psyches into our experience. Because we know that trained thought is far more powerful than untrained thought, right? And that these are universal laws. This isn't just some sort of little woo-woo, pastime. These are dynamic, universal laws, and we tap into these laws of cause and effect. And that when we are coming from first cause, we're coming from God. Whatever we conceive our God to be, whatever name we put on our higher power, it matters not. But to acknowledge that which is within us is greater than that which resides in the world of conditions, and there can be some outrageous conditions that show up, especially what's going on lately. And we're going to address some of that. And then we look at the appearances and the effects. All this is a byproduct of secondary cause when we tap into the lower vibratory frequencies. When we tap into that higher octave of consciousness and we allow that to flow through our energy field, this is the space where miracles really do occur. So you know that I do set the tone. Minnie and I will set the tone tonight. I share with you a chant from the Gandhi Foundation. It's a very beautiful chant. It was given to me during the Harmonic Convergence in 1987 when I was presenting at the United Nations University for Peace in Costa Rica. And actually someone from Palm Springs, California, sent me a crystal bowl, a quartz crystal bowl that resonated to the heart chakra. And she wanted me to tone this bowl. The Dalai Lama was speaking, and there were a lot of wonderful, esteemed academics of note on cosmology, and John Barry. I mean, it was just an amazing conference. I had never toned. This is 1987. I had never toned a crystal bowl. Now we see them everywhere, don't we? I want to acknowledge Reverend Harold's with us from San Francisco. And if you tuned in on one of my Sunday presentations, I shared the Reverend Harold Brock story, which was pretty phenomenal. And I just really take my hat off, not quite, because I've been swimming to you, Harold, but we just really are happy you're with us. And once I get going into my stream of consciousness, I won't be waving back per se physically, but spiritually, emotionally, I am waving. I am grateful that you're here with us, and that as we progress tonight, Dr. Roger wasn't sure if he could join us tonight, so we may not have a moderator tonight, but I will share with you. We like to know where you're viewing from. You can post where you're viewing from. If you have a prayer request, post it. Our Miracle Working Ministry of Prayer will pray over it for 30 days, because we know that prayer is the most powerful energy in the universe. Where 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, there I am in the midst of them. And what that means is there is a synergy, there's an energy field that is expansive. And that I can know the truth for you better than you can know the truth for you, because you are subjectively involved. And when we're subjectively involved, we cannot be objective. It's just the way it is, unless you're really advanced. And, there's times in my life where it was all falling down around me, and I went into that peaceful center. And when I went into that peaceful center, I knew it was all falling apart so it could fall together at a much higher level. And when people, places, and things move out of your life, right on the horizon, at a higher spiritual octave, people, places, and things are coming into your life at a much higher vibratory frequency. And I like to say that people, often bless us by coming into our life, and others bless us by exiting our lives. So we learn the lesson, we bless them on their way. People are with us for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And we learn, we grow, and we expand, don't we? So we're going to set the tone tonight with our Tibetan bells that resonate at the heart chakra. And remember, a chakra is a wheel of spinning energy in a clockwise fashion. We have 7 major chakras within this body temple. The heart being the doorway to the soul, the seat of the soul. Where your heart is, there your treasure will be also, right? What are we vibrating to? What are we resonating to? What are we magnetizing into our lives? So with these beautiful little Tibetan bells that one of my congregation who's made her transition, her name was Olivia Sparavon, she had originally gotten me these in the 80s, and they're very special. So I invite you to repeat after me as I make this declaration. And as I make this declaration, if you feel comfortable just to repeat, wonderful. If you don't feel comfortable, if there are kind of people around, just silently make the declaration and feel it. And put your hand on your heart. And as you put your hand on your heart, feel the beating of your heart. I believe that we were given a heart so that we would live one moment at a time, beat, by precious beat, moment, by precious moment. So please join me, repeat after me. This is the chant from the Gandhi Foundation. I offer you peace. I offer you friendship. I offer you love. I see your beauty. I hear your needs. I feel your feelings. My wisdom flows from a higher source. I salute that source in you. Come, let us work together. Come, let us work together. Come, let us work together. We know that right now, somewhere in the world, a Jew is saying her prayers. And as I make this declaration, I want us to feel this, that right now, somewhere in the world, a Jew is saying her prayers. A Hindu is chanting a mantra, and a Buddhist is kneeling at her sacred shrine. Right now, at this very moment, someone is lighting a candle in a cathedral. Someone is making their Hajj toward Mecca, for it is the will of Allah. And yet someone else is lighting a fire in a jungle, repeating an ancient mystical drama. Many, many pathways up the mountaintop, and the view is always the same from the summit. In the dawning of the spiritual sun, for a moment all faiths became as one. The Christian, Buddhist, Muslim, Jew became as one and somehow knew that mystic voice that calls to me, "Oh, yonder, yonder person, I am thee. We are one." And in this oneness do we live and move and have our being. In this oneness do we acknowledge, as we draw the larger circle, to include all. All are included in our circle of life, beyond color, race, creed, sexual orientation, and political affiliation. The blood that courses through my veins is the same color of the blood that courses through your veins. That in our oneness do we live and move and have our being. In this oneness do we embrace the universal laws of life that say, when I am in that place in me and you are in that place in you, there is only one of us. So tonight, as we look at dreams, archetypes, dreams, and visions, and the opportunity that we have to go to the next level, to deepen the quality of our spiritual life, to be so deeply grounded in the truth that nothing and no thing can disturb our peace of mind. We are so deeply grounded in the truth. And it was really interesting because on Monday there was a curfew because of there were riots, and I do not watch television. I get my news on my iPhone through various CNN and HuffPost and Time that alerts me on my iPhone so that I can discern what I want to see, what I want to allow into my consciousness. When Mary Baker Eddy, who is the founder of Christian Science, said, "I stand porter at the gate of my conscious mind, allowing only those thoughts, ideas, and energy in that I want to experience in my life." When we are standing porter at the gate of our conscious mind, we're discerning. So when I heard about the protests and the riots, and I thought about, archetypes, dreams, and visions, and that things surface. And I was sharing with Reverend Emma, actually, who, said that some of her clients were asking, how can God let this happen? Look at the state of our world. How can God let this happen? And I shared, we have free will. For God so loved the world and humanity that God gave us free will. And that through this free will, we can vibrate at a very high octave of energy or a very low vibratory frequency. And the collective unconsciousness on the planet is ego-driven. They have an ego-driven agenda. And, wars and rumors of wars and famine and terror and horrific things that happen on the planet through this ego-driven agenda. And then there is a higher octave of spirituality, the collective consciousness. Now, when we look at the archetypes of the sage and the ruler and the lover, these are major archetypes. That the lover loves humanity, that the ruler is about self-rule. And the shadow side of the ruler, the darkness, is this ego-driven agenda for power, external power. Where did that ever get anyone? Because we're all going to move off the planet into another dimension. So true power is derived through love, isn't it? Love is the strongest healing power in the universe. Dr. Martin Luther King said that hate will not drive out hate. Only the light can do that. Think about it. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only the light of love can do that. Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only the light can do that. So as we are looking tonight, energetically, of what's going on, I feel that the collective unconsciousness, that the sum total of all the consciousness, the unconsciousness, is bubbling up to be cleansed, purified, harmonized, balanced, attuned, and heightened. And as it bubbles up, all manner of things occur. And we're experiencing some of that. But in the midst of all of that, there is kindness. There are random acts of kindness, aren't there? There's caring gestures. There is an extended hand. There is that is within each and every one of us that wants to extend in love, wants to extend, bringing a hand up, not a hand out, a hand up. So in looking at the ruler archetype, it's about self-rule, and that the shadow side of the ruler is the despotic, the tyrant, as the Course in Miracles states, the petty tyrant. And that as we do our own work, as we go within to the secret place of the Most High, that place within each of us where we commune with the silence, we commune with that energy. And there are amazing opportunities and experiences I read a lot, and I read interviews, and I'm always so deeply moved by biographies where those amazing, beautiful beings that have made a difference came from such humble beginnings, and that they made a higher choice, because I believe the moment of enlightenment is the moment that you get it, that you have a choice. And that revelation carries us to the next level on this upward spiral. And life is a spiral. Remember, life goes not backward, nor tarries with yesterday. Life is the upward spiral of the soul. And when we understand that, then we begin to put our vision in a way that's going to make a difference. And it makes a tremendous difference when we lift the energy up. So tonight, I want to share with you this amazing true story. And I only share true stories because they are what move me. And I always feel the illustration of what someone else has gone through gives us not only hope, but faith in humanity. And as Mahatma Gandhi said, because a few drops in the ocean are dirty, it does not mean that the entire ocean is dirty. So we cannot judge humanity by any outpicturing or behaviors that are not for the highest and the best. That people act out of their own hurt, their own unhealed wounds, their own place of childhood hurting. And I know that my daughter worked in a group home while she was getting her master's degree with abused children. And there was a young woman who was very alienated, and my daughter was showing her kindness and showing her love. And then this dear child pushed my daughter down the stairs because she equated love with pain. So yeah, my daughter was bruised up a bit, but all of that healed. And she had compassion and understanding for this 12-year-old girl that was very abused and equated pain and love synonymously. We have a lot of work to do on the planet, but I believe that we can change the world one child at a time, one person at a time, one being at a time. And I want to share this. It's about a cantor and his wife, Michael and Julie Weissler. And they moved to Lincoln, Nebraska, because he was taking over a synagogue as their cantor. And they bought this wonderful home, and they were unpacking when the phone rang. And when they answered the phone, there was, he said, a very hateful voice on the other end. And the voice said, "You're going to be so sorry that you moved into this neighborhood," and had some, very, very unfortunate superlatives and expletives, to shouting through the phone. And his name is Michael Weisler, and he hung up the phone. And his wife said he looked like he'd been punched in the stomach. He was just like stunned. And then he said what was upsetting to him was that this kind of hatred could be dangerous. It could be really dangerous. But they just kind of put it aside and went on unpacking. And a few days later, they received a manila envelope in the mail. And when he opened it up, it had Ku Klux Klan on it. And it said, "Get out of our neighborhood, you Jewish scum." And he said he called the authorities. They knew exactly who had sent it. And his name was Larry Trapp. He was the Grand Dragon of the Ku Klux Klan. He, as a little child, he had diabetes, and when he went into the service and he came out, he had to have both legs amputated due to not getting the proper medication and insulin. So he was also disabled and filled with hatred. And so he would call up randomly and say these terrible things to Michael and his wife, Julie. And so Michael said, "I am not going to be the victim of this, and I am not going to be at the effect of this." And so he picked up the phone. And he picked up the phone to speak with Larry Trapp, the Grand Dragon of the Ku Klux Klan. And he hung up. And he said he did this several times. And finally he got an answering machine. And the answering machine was terrible. It was about Asians, blacks, and Jews. And he had all of these terrible things. Can you imagine, this was his welcome on the answer machine. And then he left a message. And he said, "Larry, I'm just calling to let you know that your behavior does not serve you, and that even you are going to answer to God." And he hung up. And he said he did this every day for 4 months. He got the answering machine with the terrible welcoming message and left something he felt that would stimulate him to think about his behavior and the life that he chose. I mean, here is this very, very bitter person. And he called again, and Larry answered. And he said, "Hello, Larry. This is Cantor Michael." And he says, "I know who you are, and this is harassment. I could have you arrested." And he said, "Well, I just called to check in on you." And he said, "Well, what do you want?" He said, "Well, I know you're disabled, and perhaps maybe I could take you to the grocery store." Can you imagine? "I thought maybe I could take you to the grocery store. After all the hateful letters, calls, I know you're disabled, and I thought I could take you to the grocery store." And the whole tone changed. And Larry said, I have that handled, but thank you. Thanks a lot. Thank you." And they hung up. And he said to his wife, Julie, his whole tone changed, and he actually thanked me. After all these horrible hate mail and calls, he thanked me. The next night, they were sitting, just finishing dinner, and the phone rang. And his wife, Julie, answered the phone. And he said, "Hello, is the rabbi there?" And she said, "Just a moment, please." So she went over to her husband and said, "It's Larry Trapp. I mean, this is the Grand Dragon of the Ku Klux Klan in Lincoln, Nebraska." And he says, "Rabbi, I want to get out of this and I don't know how. Can you help me?" And he said, "I can come over right now. Would that be okay?" And he said, "Yes." So they started out the door, and then his wife, Julie, said, "Wait, I want to take a gift." She ran back upstairs. She went into the jewelry box, looking through the jewelry box, and she saw a silver ring with silver strands on it. And she said she'd given it to her husband a couple of years before. He liked it, but rarely wore it. She took that ring, she put it in her pocket, and they went over to Larry's. And can you imagine, she said, I'm sure that he was just as leery of us as we were of him. And that's why I wanted to take this gift. And they went in, and Cantor Michael extended his hand. And Larry took his hand, they shook hands. And as they shook hands, it was like an electrical current that went through Larry's whole being and whole body. Can you imagine? They shook hands, and this electrical current went through him. And it was really interesting because the night before, at the Shabbat service, he had the whole congregation at the Shabbat service pray for Larry Trapp. At 7:30 in the evening, the whole synagogue, everyone there, prayed for the Grand Master, of the Ku Klux Klan, that had been harassing them terribly. And so he had these rings that were swastikas, and he was taking them off, and he said, they just burned my hand, I've got to get them off. Started last night around 7:30 when they were praying for Larry Trapp, the Grand Dragon of the Ku Klux Klan. Even the name is outrageous, isn't it? And he took off the swastika rings. The whole place was filled with pictures of Hitler and swastika flags and all kinds of Ku Klux Klan paraphernalia. And they took the rings, and then Julie, the Cantor's wife, said, we have a gift for you. And she took out the ring and she put it on his ring finger. And the strands that came together, the Cantor Michael said that he called it his brotherhood ring. And he said how appropriate that she could slip on the brotherhood ring because of all the intertwined beautiful silver that was on the ring. And then he said, can you ever forgive me? And he started to sob. Can you ever forgive me the way I treated you? The horrible things I said to you. Can you ever forgive me? And the rabbi, the cantor, put his arm around him, and so did his wife. And she said, we all wept. We wept for Larry. We wept for the condition in the world that brings this about. We wept for each other. And she said when they left, they could feel, and Cantor Michael said he could just feel this shift. And then they started going on public radio, and he denounced his former life and how divisive it was. And there sitting next to him was his former archenemy, Cantor Michael. And they shared on public radio this transformation and this opportunity that they had to heal and to cleanse and to purify and to let go and let God do what God does best. And so as they did this, a few months later, and you're just going to be amazed, a few months later, Larry discovered that he had cancer. Now, all his former friends from the Ku Klux Klan and all his racist friends had disappeared, of course, because he was no longer part of that vibratory frequency and in that energy. And he had no one to help him. So Cantor Michael and his wife Julie extended their home. And this former godless Ku Klux Klan Grand Dragon moved into their home. They had a wonderful family, a daughter and a son, that took him in. You know, I love that beautiful poem, he drew a circle that shut me out. But love and I had the wit to win. We drew a circle that took him in. And they took him in. And he looked transformed. absolutely transformed and was transformed. And then he made the colossal decision, a profound decision, that he wanted to convert to Judaism. And so here is this former Grand Dragon of the Ku Klux Klan, a godless man, who converted to Judaism because he saw the beauty and the goodness in these beautiful people and how this way of life impacted him at a moment in his life that he absolutely needed this. So the ruler archetype, when we look at the ruler, it's about self-rule, but the shadow side of the ruler is the petty tyrant, as the Course of Miracles states. And the petty tyrant is ego-driven. It's an ego-driven agenda. And when he converted, a few months later, he made his transition and passed away. And Cantor Michael said he was holding one hand, and his wife, Julie, who was a nurse, was holding his other hand. And he passed away from this world in peace. This former Ku Klux Klan Grand Dragon that had done so much damage. He converted in the very synagogue that he had threatened to bomb. He converted and absolutely let go of that way of life. Be not conformed to the things of this world. Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, of your life, of your energy field, and all that you are. Be ye transformed. And when we are transformed, nothing and no thing can ever touch us again, because we have moved off that plane, that horizontal plane, into the vertical life of enlightenment on the upward spiral. I was so deeply moved, but when I experienced the interview and I read the story, and I thought, and one of the things that Cantor said is one of the greatest things in Judaism is that you don't look at a person as an enemy, but they are a potential friend, and to transform that relationship. And I thought, how beautiful that they practiced their religion. And we know that there's a golden thread that runs through all religions, and that spirituality arises out of each religion and transcends religion, so that we are in the world and yet of a higher vibratory frequency. I'm so moved by these kinds of not even random acts of kindness, but deliberate acts of kindness that make a difference, that transform lives, that heal, that empower. We're spiritual people. Let's send this energy, this healing energy out. For those that have hatred in their heart, that have hurt in their heart, that we're going to send out that light. You know, we say enough to racism. We say enough to social injustice. We say enough to the inequality and inequities of life. We draw the larger circle, and we take even the intolerant in. Viktor Frankl said that when he was in a concentration camp and he was going in, he had his life's work in his hands. And he saw a German guard, and he asked if they would take his work and put it somewhere safe. He says, "Oh, jawohl." And then he said, as he went into the camp, the guard just threw it in the mud and everyone trampled his life's work. And he said, I knew at that moment that it was a new beginning, and that I could not rely on the past, that I had to move forward, and they could take everything from me, but not my freedom to choose how I would respond. So let's remember the words of Viktor Frankl, that no matter what happens, that no one can take that freedom of choice of how we're going to respond to events. And I think it's so important at the deepest level, if we are spiritual people, that we extend love, we extend compassion, we extend understanding, and that we draw the larger circle and include the intolerant, because even the intolerant can have a transformational moment and never again go back to the way it was. So you know that I complete every Wednesday Night Live Spirit, Mind, and Body with a spiritual treatment. Please post your prayer requests so that we can know the truth with you and for you. Remember that a spiritual treatment is a positive prayer of alignment. It's acknowledging that whatever it is that we are opening to is already an accomplished fact in mind and experience. We're not begging, bargaining, or beseeching an anthropomorphic God sitting on a throne with a long white beard and a little white book. I changed it from black book to white book. That was Freudian. Good, a white book. Catching us doing something right. Right? We believe in energy, a loving presence, as above, so below, as within, so without. It is great mystery that is within us. So let's just know that there is one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. And that life is our life right here and right now. That it is nearer than our breathing. It is closer than hands and feet. It is the life of our life. It is the essence of our being. All that we are is this God-created stuff. God in us, God as us. God is the only truth of us. Whatever we conceive our higher power to be, whatever name we put on it, it matters not. But to acknowledge that which is within us is greater than that which resides in the world. For eye hath not seen, nor ear heard, neither hath entered into the heart of man and woman the things which God hath prepared for them that love. Love is the strongest healing power in the universe. Let's open the space tonight. Let's really acknowledge together that which needs to be healed is healed. Just repeat it after me if you feel moved. That which needs to be healed is healed. That which needs to be revealed is revealed. That which needs to be known is known. And that which needs to be released is released. Quickly, gently, and with grace. Thank you, Father, Mother, God, for answered prayer, for the opportunity to know that any plant which the Heavenly Father hath not planted is rooted up and returned to its native nothingness from whence it came, because in truth it is neither person, place, nor thing, only the life and the energy that we have given unto it. We release this word unto our higher power, knowing that it returns in full-blown expression of that which has been sent forth on this night. And if there's anyone with us tonight that possibly cried themselves to sleep, know that this word is for you, that you are enfolded in the everlasting arms of God's love. You are not alone, that you are loved. I let go and let God do what God does best by means of each and every one of us who are aligning on this energy, this light, and this truth. And so it is. Amen. I say to you, thank you very much for those of you who have supported us. You know that we have not taken a physical offering since last March. We have not received a physical offering. But because of our virtual community and our interfaith community that lives in the Coachella Valley, we have made our expenses for April and May. And when we're at the Lieberman, it's $1,000 more because of our rent. We have $1,000 worth of expenses. And of course, you know, we're meeting every Sunday at the Rose of Sharon Sanctuary, which is my home. And Fleet has been amazing. I'm so grateful for Fleet. Reverend Perry, Joan of Angels has come to do a reading. Our in-house mystic, Kay Schreiber, came on Easter and did a beautiful reading as well. And so we have 3 people that are conducting, you know, our service. And I have just felt so blessed that we could still serve. We didn't miss a beat. We've, you know, perfected, you know, little things here and there. And I feel that we are serving. And I feel that this message is vital, especially in these very interesting times. So thank you for tithing and for your love offerings and for thinking of us. It is so deeply appreciated. And I say to you, Namaste. The God in me celebrates the God in you, and the God in you celebrates the God in me. And if I am in that place in me and you are in that place in you, there is only one of us. Namaste. I say shalom, the peace that passes all understanding. And God bless us, every one. Just know that I love you, I'm grateful for you, and that Minnie and I will see you next week.